Welcome back. As we mentioned, reaction to the assassination of Charlie Kirk continues to pour in, including from top political leaders. We have seen a mix of sadness, anger, frustration, fear, some finger pointing. Last night, President Trump posting a video statement to his social media account. He cast blame for the shooting on his political rivals, and it comes as authorities are still searching for a suspect. Take a listen to what the president said.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
And congressional leaders reacting to those comments today.
He's deeply moved by this as well. He's very close to Charlie, and Charlie's very close to the Trump family, so he feels an acute loss. And he's as he said in his own words last night in his message, he's angry and deeply disturbed about it, and that's a natural human emotion, and even the President of the United States feels it. So you will hear me, as I have always done. I'm trying to turn the temperature down around here. I always do that.
The bottom line is this is a time that all Americans should come together and feel and mourn what happened. Violence, which affects so many different people of so many different political persuasions, is an affliction of America. And coming together is what we ought to be doing, not pointing fingers of blame.
This moment requires leadership that brings the American people together as opposed to trying to further divide us. Political violence in any form against any American is unacceptable, should be denounced by everyone. And moving forward, we have to figure out a better way to come together, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans.
Joining me now is NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake and NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona. Garrett, I want to start with you. I've been talking to people at the White House. They describe the absolute shock that everyone is in there. One person said to me, so many of the top officials there had personal relationships with Charlie Kirk. So they are in mourning right now. Talk to me about the reaction that you're hearing.
Yeah, not just top officials, but junior officials, too, who knew Charlie Kirk in many cases from the campaign, which he was someone, sort of in the foxhole with them, rhetorically speaking. And he was also someone that was broadly admired, again, especially by the younger people on the staff. It is hard to overstate how important he's been to the conservative movement over the last 7 or 8 years. Donald Trump Jr. earlier today called him the single most important person other than his father, the president of the United States, at winning in 2024. And so there are both personal relationships and political relationships that have been nurtured over a very long time. And to have that all lost very suddenly in video clips that one could not avoid on social media yesterday, he has deeply shaken people affiliated with this White House inside and out who knew Charlie Kirk well.
And Garrett, talk to me about Vice President J.D. Vance. He is flying to meet with the Kirk family and to bring Charlie's body back. It's a very deeply personal, emotional act. Talk about his relationship with Charlie Kirk and the implications of what the vice president is doing today.
Yeah, it's a personal and emotional act befitting a personal, emotional relationship that had some depth to it, according to the vice president, who made a lengthy post on X earlier today talking about his relationship with Kirk and how it went back to 2017, how they both struggled initially with the idea of supporting Donald Trump, and then about the manner in which they grew their friendship, in some cases through debate about religion, about politics, about Vance's future. They're both fathers of relatively young children. There's clearly kind of a lot more personal kinship there between J.D. Vance and Charlie Kirk, who I think were sort of creatures of a similar age in the Republican Party. You see this gesture of bringing Air Force Two out to transport Charlie Kirk's body and some of his family members and friends back to Arizona. That's just never done. I mean, this is an incredibly rare act politically. I think a powerful symbol of how close that relationship was.
It certainly is a powerful symbol. And Garrett, you talk about his children, and I think for the entire nation that is in mourning, that is one of the most devastating aspects of this loss. Those two beautiful young children who now have to grow up without their dad. Garrett, thank you so much for your reporting from the White House. Mel, let me turn to you. You have been talking to lawmakers there on Capitol Hill. What is the mood on Capitol Hill today? I can only imagine that the grief extends all the way down Pennsylvania Avenue.
It does. And over the last 24 hours, I would say the mood went from sad and somber to outraged and angry. And I can't emphasize enough how on edge lawmakers are, how scared they are for their own safety. I think for Republicans especially, this is deeply personal and hits close to home. Many of them had really close personal connections to Charlie Kirk, including the Speaker himself said that he was a close confidant. One member of Congress even introducing a resolution today to grant Charlie Kirk the Congressional Gold Medal of Honor. But for members in both parties, this slaying in broad daylight at a public event is such a reminder of how truly vulnerable members are when they go out in the public and interact with people, which is a part of the job, especially when they go back home to their districts. But despite those shared fears, there is less agreement about how best to turn down the temperatures and how to prevent this type of political violence from happening in the future. So that is the challenge, not only for Congress, but also our entire country right now.
It certainly is, Mel. I'm going to talk to my next guest about this as well, but let me ask you, what are the conversations around ramping up security for lawmakers?
The leadership is in active conversations right now, I'm told, with the Sergeant at Arms about potential security enhancements. I will say that after the political assassinations in Minnesota this summer, they did opt to increase funding for members to be able to hire their own personal security or to make upgrades at their own personal homes. But that increase is actually set to expire at the end of the fiscal year, which would be the end of this month. And just more broadly, Kristen, there are limitations to securing all 535 members of Congress. It's just not realistic to provide a security detail for every single member of Congress. And this is something they've been wrestling with for years amid this uptick in threats against members of Congress. So in the meantime, members are starting to take matters into their own hands. I talked to a number of members this morning from both sides of the aisle who say they're either moving events that were outdoors to indoors, canceling events altogether, or one member, Nancy Mace, told me that she's going to start carrying a firearm wherever she can go. So this incident really just reverberating on Capitol Hill, Kristen.
It certainly is, and now the issue of security more urgent than ever. Mel, Garrett, Haake, thank you both so much. I am joined now by Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma. He was also a friend of Charlie Kirk. Senator, I want to start off by extending my condolences to you. I am so sorry for your loss, and I want to just ask how you're holding up today.
You know, Charlie was a friend, but who's really hurting today is his family. You know, you have
take your time.
Yeah, no, we're good. You have Erica this morning that's lost her soulmate, and she's looking at how she's going to raise her family without her husband, who was a devoted husband, a devoted Christian, a devoted leader, a devoted father. That's who's hurting today. You know, I have experienced way more death in my life than I should, and you come to grasp it. And the reason I don't ever get emotional about it, because it's the arena that I used to walk in. But this hurts, and the reason why it hurts is because it's so senseless, right? I mean, what did Charlie do to anybody?
Yeah.
He wasn't intimidating anybody. The guy didn't make laws. He wasn't politically elected. He simply went to campuses and gave people an open opportunity to voice their opposing opinion. And he didn't do it in a condescending way. He didn't do it in a belittling way. He didn't do it in a showboating way. He brought Christian values, traditional values, and would debate you from the biblical standpoint, or from a political standpoint, from a constitutional standpoint, from a founding father standpoint. And he was so knowledgeable in every bit of it. And so why was he so threatening? What was it that was so threatening about Charlie Kirk that you felt like you needed to silence his voice and take that voice away from his children the rest of their life, to take away that husband from Erica the rest of his life? What was so threatening to you that you had to remove him from this world and steal him from all of us? And my mom sent me something a while ago, which was actually, you know, she doesn't text that much, and she sent me a text message. She said, knowing Charlie and knowing that he was such a strong Christian man, which thank God we have the Lord to lean on and the faith to believe, where Charlie is resting today at the hand of, you know, at the feet of the Lord. She said he was only on this world for 31 years. And his spirit must have known that, because he accomplished major things. He changed the conversation on our campuses. He got political people that would never be involved.
He founded Turning Point when he was only
18 years old. And what did he do with it? And he made drastic changes in 31 years of his life, and really 12 years of it. And he's left a legacy for all of us to move forward. So it hurts. It does hurt, and it hurts more than what it should, especially, you know, for someone that's been through, you know, the death so often. And it's just because it shouldn't have happened. Yeah. It shouldn't have happened.
And you described so perfectly what it was he did. He was fostering political debate, which is the center of our democratic process. What, Senator, do you think, I mean, you've spoken about his legacy so beautifully. What are the implications of this horrific act to take away this young father and this person who inspired so many?
Well, I think there's several roles that have to be played here. One role, we all can do better. All of us to speak and sometimes use phrases that get a rise out of people, right? We use those catchy phrases. What's the saying? If it bleeds, it leads. That it's not just to the media, it's to the politicians too, that tries to catch that one catchphrase that's going to be replayed over and over again. And all sometimes we're doing is stroking the fire or throwing gasoline on it, as we call gaslighting. And we have to do better, right? We've been through some very dark times in this country, and every time we've been able to come out better if we're able to hit a reset. Second of all, we can't. Someone tried to steal Charlie's voice from us, and it's on us to make sure it doesn't stop. The movement he started with the young people, the movement he started on the campuses, needs to continue and needs to multiply faster than what he was even able to do it. The way he was able to have conversations without hatred, the way he was able to show love to those people he drastically disagreed. He showed us how to debate with words and knowledge and not fear. And I personally can do a heck of a lot better at that. All of us can do better at that. He was able to articulate a message that people that even that would disagree with him could smile and take something from it.
And I do want to ask you about what should come next and what has to happen to end this climate that you have described. And I know you've said that there has to be a reset. You've said also, when is a Democrat going to stand up for the hatred and lies they fed their base that led to these actions? Broadly speaking, and as you've just pointed to, Charlie Kirk was the latest victim of an assassination. We know that there were lawmakers killed and targeted in Minnesota. Is this a bipartisan message that you have? Does it apply to Democrats and Republicans?
It applies to all of us. Like I said, we all own this. We all have some responsibility to this. And now what are we going to do with it? As leaders, yourself being a leader, you know, the elected leaders, we all have some responsibility. So what are we going to do with it? We all say we're shaken, but what are we going to change? Because you can't control crazy and you can't legislate morality. Those are impossible things to do. But we also know how to be more responsible with the words we say. You know, they say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's not accurate. And we know that. We've been taught that, but that's not accurate. And so the sense of responsibility that we can take from this is we can agree to disagree. I've been telling myself all day, my mantra has been since 2016, love the people, love the call. Today is a tough day just because it's 9/11. And now on top of that, we're dealing with you know, with Charlie Kirk and the senseless act of assassination. We all have a responsibility, and we can do better. And I think we can. And that applies across the board.
We just heard my colleague describe some of the fear of the lawmakers on Capitol Hill. I mean, Charlie Kirk wasn't even an elected official. He was someone who was energizing young people. Senator, how do you feel about your own safety? You are a dad. You have a family. Does there need to be better security for lawmakers on Capitol Hill?
Well, I don't fear for my own safety. I don't. I put things in two categories: things I can do something about, and things I can't. So fear doesn't drive me at all, and so I can't worry about that. I do worry about my wife and kids. Obviously, we take precautions in that manner. As far as security for all 535 members, what's the cost of life? Right, it is very expensive. If you just go and you say, because I'm actually on the chair that's going to oversee this and oversee the budget of it. It goes through Ledge Branch, and so I've already been working on this. In fact, we started work on it through August. But just say we put this detail that what an average governor has in the state of in most states is usually a 3-person detail, and not what the speaker's detail is, not what some of our higher-ranking officials have, but just 3 people. Well, you got to have SUVs in every state. You start talking about a 3-person detail. Also has to have actually 6 because they've got to have rotations in and out because it's a 24-hour detail. You got to have 2 vehicles, not 1, because you got to have an advanced vehicle and the other one. You got to be able to work with local law enforcement. You got to have a memorandum of understanding with every jurisdiction that you're walking into. It's very, very complicated, very, very expensive. But is American people willing to, as the taxpayers, willing to pay for it? We can budget it and we can make it happen, but at what cost is huge. And for me, I'm saying, do we want this to happen again? Because all of us that are in the political world, including yourself, we can all say it's not a matter of if.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
And so at what point are we going to be forced to do it? Let's be proactive and reactive and figure out how we can make these political officials somewhat secure. But even with the detail, but I just want to point this out, even with the detail, Charlie Kirk had a security around him. That doesn't keep a sniper 200 yards away from shooting. You look at President Trump, it doesn't keep that from happening. It just keeps the crazies from getting too close to you.
You have to go vote, but very quickly, I do want to give you the final word to let you. How would you like your friend Charlie Kirk to be remembered?
A legend. A game changer, a trailblazer, a Christian, a father, and an unbelievable husband, an example to all of us.
Senator, I'm so deeply sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry we have to have this conversation in the first place, but I really appreciate your coming by and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.